Hey guys, welcome back. Today I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Claudia. Nice to meet you if you're new, and welcome back if you're not new. Today I wanted to go over everything I read in January. It was a grand total of 17 books, and I did manage to complete the Storygraph page challenge in January, which was at least a page a day, every day in January, which significantly harder than I thought. But anyway, over on my Instagram, I write reviews for every book that I read for the most part. And if you want, you can follow me over there and see them as they're coming out. They're not super prompt. It takes me anywhere between 1 and 5 days to put up the review of some of my most recent reads. But I thought it would be fun, since it's now February, to go over all of the reviews that I put up on Instagram and give you a recap of everything I've read this month. And so the way I do my reviews is slightly different. I don't write an in-depth review. I don't even talk about the characters or the plot, or I give one sentence. These are one sentence reviews that just try to sum up my general feelings towards the book and whether I liked it, didn't like it. There are some that are really long sentences that are probably run-on sentences, but we're just gonna go with it because as long as there's not 2 periods, I count it. The first book I read in January was The Bookworm and the Beast, and I think I gave this one a 3.75 stars on my Storygraph. Again, you can follow me, the link is in the description, we can be friends. And my one sentence review is, it was not the best, but I might continue this series. The second book I read in January was By the Fae by Gemma Croft, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars, and my one sentence review for this book was, I had such a fun time with this book. Book 3 was Totally Pucked. This was a book I got as part of a Stuff Your Kindle Day event, and I don't remember the stars I gave it, but I did say that I did not know it was a novella going into it. And I do remember that definitely impacting my experience reading the book. It's important to note that it is a novella. And then the fourth book I read in January was Not Her Villain by Irene somebody. I'm sorry, I'm bad at author names and I don't have the titles and authors in front of me right now for these books. And my one sentence review, I don't even know if this counts as a sentence, it was fairly decent. Up next, we have one that I did a buddy read on with one of my friends who lives literally on the other side of the country, and I don't get to see her very often. And this one was my pick, and then this month we're doing one that's her pick. And for my pick, I picked Fear the Silence by Robert Brinza. And I gave this book 4 stars, and the one sentence I used to sum it up was, it was so good, but then I have no idea what happened at the end. Okay, up next, I read Lightlark by Alex Astor. I enjoyed this one pretty well. I gave it a 3.5 star rating, which I don't really know why. Depending on the mood I'm in that day, my rating changes drastically, because I can enjoy a book at the same level and give it a 3.5 star rating and be like, yes, I would recommend you this book, or give it a 4.5 star, 5 star rating. It really just depends. I don't even know my rating system and I'm trying to figure it out. But the one sentence I used to sum it up was, I had to get a little tricky with this one. So my sentence was, Lightlark, a fun read, was better than I was expecting and I would recommend it. I was impressed with that sentence, if I do say so myself. Next, we have A Ruin of Roses by K.F. Breen. And this one is one that I did not know it was a series going into it. Which is said in my sentence, and I didn't really enjoy it. I gave it 2.75 stars, and my sentence was, it was fine, bordering on good, until I learned it was the start of a series, which I will not be reading because I did not like it that much. Up next, we have, I have no idea what number book this is anymore, but it is Capture the Sun by Jessie Mahalik, and I love this series. It's the Starlight Shadows series, and this one I gave 5 stars. I think I've given every book in this series so far, and I'm really hoping there's more. but my one sentence for this book was, I absolutely adore the characters in this series, and I seriously hope there are more books. So there is one for every character. Next, we have our first sports, that's a lie, Totally Pucked was a sports romance. We have our first full-length sports romance of the month. This is Cocky Score by Kenna King. I gave this one a very solid 4 stars and summed it up by saying it was a very solid romance. Up next, I went through a phase, this had to be mid-January by now, in the teens of January, where I just was not really enjoying anything I was reading and took out a bunch of books from the library. So these next couple are from that. This is Wolf Trouble, which is a SWAT Special Wolf Alpha Team book by Paige Tyler. I gave this one 3.5 stars, with the sentence to sum it up being, it exceeded my expectation, but I don't know if I'll read more books in this series. And then up next is another one of those where I just took out a ton of books from the library, and I originally had a different book out by Taj McCoy. It was like Zara Scores Her Happily Ever After, something like that, and it was a love triangle, and I was hoping it would end up in a Why Choose romance, so I looked it up and it did not, and then I decided I didn't want to read that one. But everybody had good things to say about the author, so I went and found this book by the author, which is Savvy Sheldon Feels Good as Hell. Her name is Savannah Sheldon, so I think Savvy Sheldon makes sense. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. I apologize if I got it wrong. This one I gave 4 stars with a very long sentence, which was, it was a very solid read. However, it sometimes felt like everything and nothing was happening, and there were also parts I felt could have been resolved better. Oh, up next, this is now we're in like the 20s of January, leading up to the release of Crescent City 3 House of Flame and Shadow. And here at this point, I had House of Sky and Breath out from my library, and I was procrastinating reading it because I knew the spoiler at the end of House and Sky and Breath. Thank you for that book talk. And I did not want to cliffhang myself, so I waited until literally the last minute. You'll see it's like really close to the end, House of Sky and Breath is, and procrastinated reading it with literally multiple Mariana Zapata books. And so the first one is Under Lock, which obviously I gave a 5-star review. It was a reread, and this is what I had to say about it. I absolutely adore all Mariana Zapata books, but every time I read them, I wish there were a few chapters from the guy's point of view. And I think that really sums it up, because I was literally like, oh, I just want to know what's going through Locke's head right now. What's coming next is Mariana Zapata's The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This was, again, a reread. I gave it 5 stars, and the sentence I used to sum it up and sum up my feelings was, this is such a cute fake relationship romance that gets better every time I read it. But like I said when I was talking about Underlock, I really, really wanted some of the guy's point of view chapters. Like, I really wanted Aiden's point of view. We have another sports romance, another one by Mariana Zapata, and this is Colty, which is a 5-star from me, has been since the first time I read it. And it was a reread. I think it might have been the 3rd or 4th time I read this book. All I had to say about it was one of my favorite romances of all time. And then finally, we make it to House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas, the one and only. Some people are gonna be real mad about this. I gave this one 3.5 stars. The sentence I used to sum it up was, it was a tale of frustration that felt like it was going everywhere and nowhere. Yeah. We're just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna say anything more. If you want me to explain more why I felt that way, feel free to ask me in the comments and I will get back to you on it. At this point, we're at Monday, January 29th, and then I went to the midnight release party for Crescent City 3 at my local Barnes & Noble. And then I started a buddy read with one of my friends over on Instagram, at Reading Kelsey. I'll leave her information in the description. Please go follow her. She's amazing on Instagram. And I am trying to pace myself with Crescent City 3, which is here, and then you can see how far I've come through it. I took the dust jacket off because I would ruin it so fast. So you can see how far I am now, and it's currently February 1st, so it doesn't count as part of January. But I was trying to pace myself, but I got bored and like I was somewhere and like needed something to read, and I'm trying to read this book with no distractions and just like solely focus on it. Where a lot of times when I read with in a like a loud environment or around people doing a lot of things, so there are distractions. So what I did is I read this book when I'm solely alone, and obviously the plot sticks in my head, it's a fantasy. And then when I'm out and about doing things, I've been rereading the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Lise. I apologize if I said it wrong. So the first one I reread was Ziggy's Story, If Only You. I gave this one a very solid 5 stars. Obviously, it was a reread. And the one sentence I used to talk about this book was, I love how it's a reformed bad boy like the book the female main character reads. This is the 17th and final book from January. Is one of my favorite romances. It's again from the Bergman Brothers series. I've been rereading it, as I mentioned. And this one is Everything for You by Chloe Lise. I again apologize if I'm saying it wrong. Personally, I like it better than Red, White, and Royal Blue because this one gives you the dual point of view where we switch and we just get to like see what everybody's doing and like what both characters are thinking rather than just one. And so for this one, the one sentence I said was, "This is such a cute teammate soccer romance!" Exclamation point. And that is the summary of all 17 books I read in January. Let me know if you liked this kind of video and if you want to see it again for February. And if you've been following me a little while, you'll know that in 2023, I picked a book from every month and gave 12 recommendations for the 12 days at the end of the year. So if you're thinking, which one am I going to pick from this month? Or which one would you pick from this month if you've read it? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.